afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the chat box. We are in episode lucky number 13. I am super excited. As you can see, we are in a brand new studio. We have joined forces with TV8 Vail, and we are going to do it right here in the studio from here on in. And we're going to do the same theme, always focusing on mental health, with myself, Liz, and my co-host, Jen. So good to be here. We are so happy. Thank you again to Danielle. You are amazing for doing this with us. We're really excited. And our very first guest in our brand new studio is a wonderful, lovely lady. This is Julie Kiddoo. Yay! We need a clap track. So what we do, and we've had a lot of different guests here, anywhere from mental health specialists to yoga specialists to people who want to guide anybody who's going through any sort of emotional or mental health issue. And it could go down as far as being lonely or sad or depressed or anxious or filled with rage or grieving. There are so many different stages of our emotions, and we've all been through a lot. Jen and I decided to do this podcast together because we've both been through life. And sometimes when you go through life and you get kicked around enough, it's actually cathartic to want to help others. And for me, in all my long years of fighting that fight of life, I decided, I think something a very healing place for me in this portion of my world would be to bring on lovely locals like yourself that make a difference in our community and that bring light to certain things that not everybody's gonna be attracted to every different thing. But you have a big light in you, and you've been through it, and you have come out the other side like a queen.
Aww.
And seriously, I mean, this is a really important chat box. Not only is it lucky number 13, but you were born on a Friday the 13th.
Yes.
So this is absolutely perfect. And Jen, you're with us even though you pulled a muscle in your back. I really appreciate that you're here. So she looks a little like this today. It's all good. You're still beautiful. So first, before we get into anything, this book is incredible. When I interviewed you probably in 2018 or 2019, because I know it just came out and you did a signing at the Bookworm, I had to have you on the radio and we talked about this. And you gave me some insight, but I know that in that many years, your growth has been insanely huge. You've come a really long way, and a lot of people know you as the original owner of Revolution Power Yoga, which you sold to Kayla Weber a couple years ago.
Yep.
And she's magnificent and does a great job. But you have taken your life on a whole nother journey. So for a lot of people who are just getting to be introduced to you, and even Jen, who's getting to know you today, so I'm really curious about your process. What made you begin to even come up with the idea to write a book that really opens up a lot of stuff with you? And you've also voiced your opinion on the stage for things, and you've done so many different things to come through life on the other side, more empowered, and you're just such a strong lady. And I just want to know if you could take us on a little bit of a journey on your life and how everything began, and so everybody can understand that you just don't pop up and feel okay. There's a lot of steps that you take to getting well.
Okay, I'll do my best to answer all of your questions, Liz. So really, I went through a lot, and I can touch on some of those things, but it was probably in maybe 2014, 2015, my sister-in-law, who lived in Tahoe at the time, had a daughter in middle school, and she had friends who were cutting and harming themselves, and she said, I wish you could come out here and share your story. I feel like these girls would really benefit from hearing your story. And so I thought, oh yeah, I'll start a blog, or I'll start taking notes. And so eventually, when I sat down at my computer to write some notes for my sister-in-law, I was like, this can't be a blog. This has to be a book. Oh. And so it took me a hot minute. I mean, I think I probably started writing it in 2014, and then it didn't get published until 2018. And all I said was, like, if I can make the difference in the life of one person who reads this, then mission accomplished. And I really just want to offer hope, no matter what people are going through. But yeah, a little bit of my own journey. When I was a senior in high school, I went through a serious depression. I didn't like change then. I still don't love change. yet I continue to change my environment all the time. But my mom took me on a college trip to visit a college, and while I was on that trip, I started to lose my appetite, and my sleep went out the window. And by the time I got back to school that Monday, I had a hard time concentrating, and so my parents pulled me out of school for what we thought was going to be a few days, and it ended up being 5 months.
And this all came on pretty sudden?
It came on pretty suddenly, yeah. And so that fall of my senior year, I was put on an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety, and they worked for a little bit of time, and then all of a sudden they didn't, and my parents didn't know what to do with me, so I was hospitalized. And back then, this was in 1987.
Wow.
And so I was 17, and you can do the math. Yep, I'm 54. And mental health wasn't talked about at all back then. I was hospitalized, and when I was hospitalized that first night, I was taking cold turkey off the medications I was on, which these days is a
Well, that's a no.
no.
Right.
And so what I was experiencing, like I went from bad to worse, and the next morning I was catatonic, just staring at the ceiling walls of the hospital, couldn't function at all.
Did you know what you were feeling like at the time, or you just went blank?
It was literally blank. I think I remembered my social security number, my name, and I just stared at the ceiling walls.
That's got to be so scary.
It was wild.
You're 17.
17. And then I remember getting, I don't think in the lobby, but I got a shot in the hiney of something, and then multiple drugs to pull me out of this funk. And while I was in the hospital, I was labeled bipolar, and
wow.
We still don't really know why. It was kind of like, oh, let's just throw the dime in the pond and see.
I mean, yeah, because bipolar's like heavy ups and downs, and you were just in one specific
Yeah, I was
frame.
just depressed. So I don't
Right.
know if they thought because I had been put on the antidepressants and they worked, but then they didn't.
Oh.
It was thrown around very loosely. But anyway, I had that label, and though we had a really great doctor while I was in the hospital for a little bit of time, and she gave us all the hope we ever could have wanted. She said,
that's
Julie
wonderful.
will get better. She will graduate from high school. She will go to college. She will get married one day, and she will have kids. And I don't know how she could predict that, but I always hung on to that hope. Always.
She gave you hope.
She
is
gave
what
me hope.
Did.
She
wasn't,
gave me hope.
Psychic, but she gave you hope, and it led to manifestation of all the things she said.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was right. I graduated from high school. I went to college. That fall of 88, I graduated from high school in 88, and did another little couple week stint in the hospital for medication change, and then eventually graduated from the University of Minnesota in 94, took a year off, and my parents moved to Vail actually during that time from Minnesota. And then I met my husband during that
Look,
year
it all
off.
happened.
I know, Tom, and he's amazing. And then she was right. We have 2 kids. My daughter's 18 and my son is
crazy.
21. Yeah, and it was like, it was something to have them too, just because I had to go off of the medication that I was on.
So it wasn't the meds that were really working for you, it was just life in general that needed to take place. Did you ever find out what caused the initial depression, or did it just come out of nowhere? Was it chemical, or was it something that was triggered?
Yeah, well, I would say, chemical imbalance, and looking back at past traumas that I had, and this is all in my book too, but when I was 7, I was molested by my babysitter, and I kept that a secret from my parents for 10 years.
And how old were you?
I was 7.
7.
And only when I was 17, the fall of my senior year, and I became depressed, my mom's like, what did the babysitter do to you? And have you smoked pot? And have you, asking me all these questions, because she's like, where is this coming from? And I had a really happy, my parents are amazing, just wonderful, wonderful people, And so it's like, this kind of came out of the blue. But then looking back, it's like, oh, holding this, being molested a secret for 10 years, and that impact. And then when I was 16, I was backpacking with a girlfriend in Colorado, and we were sexually assaulted, and it was just one of those things like, oh, okay, we almost went to trial, but it kind of got shoved under the rug, and then we just moved on. Nowadays, if you knew that happened to your child, they'd be in therapy and doing all these things. We just didn't know.
There were no tools during that time to make people aware of how to go about getting a little assistance when there was trauma. I mean, I've been through a lot of trauma, and I was just basically supposed to just walk it off. But you had mentioned something before we came on the camera, and it's very important to me, and I think it should be important to everybody. One of the biggest healing practices you can do for anything that has happened in your life that has caused grief or trauma or PTSD is discussing what happened or what's going on.
Yeah, I would agree of that fully. And though, like if you would have told me that when I was 18, 19, I'm like, oh no, it stays right here, no chat box, just in the box.
Right.
But I would say as my journey kind of progressed, so yes, I went to these things, met my husband, came out here, had kids, and then started my yoga journey and started one of the programs I took had kind of personal inquiry in it, and it was like, what I got to distinguish is like, okay, these things, like I went through these things happened in my life, but making the distinction that they don't define me. And it's actually like giving me my power. And then one of the healers that I had, she said, Julie, it's your mission to demystify anxiety and depression for people, and you're to go out and share. And I'll never forget, like I was at the program I was doing was at the Vail Athletic Club at the time, and there were windows that faced south to Vail Mountain. And there were a group of like 35 of us in the room, and it was the first time I ever shared publicly that I had been through, like I had been labeled bipolar. I didn't share like a lot, but just enough.
Yes.
And whatever was going on Vail Mountain as soon as I shared with this group, fireworks went off on Vail Mountain, and it lit up the whole room. And I was like, I'm like, okay, that's a sign from God. Like I have to share. I have to. And then I started sharing on social media. Social media can be great, but it also can be
well, that's because you have the thumb thugs.
So, and though when I started feeling comfortable in sharing, and some of my posts I have in the back of the book, just people were like, oh my gosh, me too, I had no idea. Because from the outside, it's like, oh yeah, she's got, these kids and this perfect golden retriever, and, I taught yoga, but nobody knew what I went through to get where I was. And I think everybody has a story. And that's what I really think, to your point. I think it wasn't just one thing that got me to share. I think whether people need therapy or lots of different things to feel safe to share. In the sharing, though, is where I really got the freedom. Even being here today, like, yes, I've done a lot of healing, but it's like another layer. And so I just think some people don't even know that they can get better. They're just stuck and depressed, and they think that that's all they'll feel that way. I know that because I've been there a lot.
Well, I think everybody has. I know I've been there, and as far as the sharing goes, sometimes it takes a long time to decide that it's your time to share something, but you've wasted a lot of time on the work that you could have been doing, and then you could have been a little bit more at peace with yourself, a little bit happier, a little bit finding that joy easier. I mean, I know that we've discussed things that sometimes it's hard to pop out of something.
Absolutely. Oh. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's why I think, it's amazing that kind of yoga brought you, a body journey brought you to a mental health journey, and you're sharing that with the world. And there's something, you keep saying that you were labeled bipolar. Do you disagree with that diagnosis now that you've gone through your yoga practice? Do you feel like that's not correct anymore? Or
I'm glad you asked that. I actually probably in 2005 was undiagnosed
really
bipolar. I had a psychiatrist out here, and he's like, you're not bipolar. And I was like, wait, what?
That's why I like the
and
title.
That's why the title
Bipolar. Bye, Felicia.
And so I was unlabeled. He said, no, you just deal more with anxiety and depression. And though, like, we can become our labels,
Yes.
And there is a time and a place for labels. I'm not saying they're bad. If one has cancer or is diabetic, like, we need those. And even bipolar, there are people who actually are or have other mental health diagnoses. They're powerful because they tell us how to treat and move forward. For me, like I said before, that was just thrown around like candy, and
wow.
And
so were pills, by the way. Medicine back in the day was thrown around like candy. Just put your kid on Adderall or.
Yeah. I was on like, I probably should have been on Adderall, but I was on a lot of other ones, and to no fault. I mean, people just. I look back and I don't have any anger or any, people did the best they could with what they knew.
Right.
And then I will say, like, this might take this conversation a little bit, but. Yes, there is a chemical imbalance, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the gene mutation called the MTHFR.
Is that where your genetics change from trauma?
I don't know if it gets changed from trauma, but I found out in doing some hormone work in the last couple of years, I actually have the gene, and there's several gene mutations, but the one that I have accounts for anxiety, depression, bipolar, migraines, ADHD. And
We might all be wearing the jeans, the sisterhood of the traveling jeans. I think we all got that.
When I found that out, I was like, what? And I don't think a lot of medical doctors know about this. I've been seeing, she's a medical doctor, but she's also a naturopath, and it's a specific, I think she found it either through blood work or a urine test, and I'm like, well, I wish I would have known that back when I was 17. And so I take like this complex B12 to help support it, and also like the diet is important too. You know, having a diet, at least for the MTHFR gene, heavy in folate, like romaine, broccoli, spinach, avocado. I eat those things intuitively anyway, but so that's a whole nother thing that I know just enough about it to be dangerous. But I also wonder, it's like how much that played into it too. Nature versus nurture, you know.
Without
like,
a doubt,
yes,
I
I had
mean,
these traumas, but
and then all the
also it's my
chemicals,
makeup.
once again, back in the time where nobody realized all the things that we were eating were so chemical filled, and I'm sure it didn't really help the process with our development and our mental health. Do you know what I'm saying? Because like we end up with a lot of illnesses and or pain, and pain and illness also lead to mental health issues. There's so many things. And the one thing I can say about this time of life is that people are more accepting. It doesn't seem to be so stigmatized anymore, and people are not as cruel to people who are going through issues. I think that that's a step in a great, proper direction.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, so I'd be interested to hear too about, since you've been sharing your story, like what kind of connections have you made, and what kind of, like, what do you have like a great impact story where you realize that somebody was like, thank you, like you brought this out of me.
Oh, good question. I love
Thank
that.
you. I don't even know if I can do that without crying, but
You can cry. You got tissues somewhere.
I do have, and I always want to stay humble, but I have had people that have read my book and were like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I thought I was the only one. And I know my son like I said, he's 21, he's in college, and he's been sharing my story with his friends who maybe have struggled, and
Nice.
some of them, it's the first time they ever felt hope, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like checkmate for the book. So and even getting to share in This Is My Brave this past fall at the Villar.
Yes.
It was probably one of the biggest honors, just sharing my story only to make a difference for others.
Absolutely.
So yeah, at the moment I don't have like one specific like, oh, this is what happened, but there have been quite a few. I'd like to have more. I'm in this kind of in-between place of selling the studio last year, and what's my new role? Maybe motivational speaker.
Oh, that would be amazing for you.
That opportunity just fell out of the sky, and
Yeah, you never know.
you know.
Manifestation is a very huge thing, and the energy from that is just big. And so I have to say, so brave of you to get onto This Is My Brave. I was going to do it and I chickened out. So I wasn't very brave because I wasn't ready to tell my truth. I'm ready to tell some stories. We do have the Valley Voice coming up on April 6th where you have 5 minutes to tell a story. And I was going to go for a more intense story. And once again, not so much. I'm going to tell a funny story. But the idea of being able to get up in front of a lot of people and tell your truth and hold your head up high and show how positive and empowered you are and strong, it's a huge thing. I mean, a lot of people do not handle traumatic scenarios or PTSD with a lot of grace and courage like you have. So I know that there's probably some tools that you might use to maybe we could share, I don't know, because there's a lot of people that still feel lost, they feel stuck, they feel sad, they feel alone. And okay, that cliche, you're not alone. We all want to just smack somebody when they say that, but the truth is, there are people going through a lot of different things, but there are tools that we can use for our different scenarios that might help somebody that had no idea.
Yeah. Well, I would say I didn't just wake up one day and like, I'm going to share for sure. Like I remember being
What made you get to the point of being able to share?
Well, I'll try to fill that in, but I remember being in college and I had I took a public speaking class, and I remember walking to campus. I went to the University of Minnesota, and the campus was huge. And that song, was it the Wilson sisters or whatever, like hold on for one more day, don't you know think? I'm like, okay, all I gotta do is get through the speech class. And I would say though, as far as like being able to stand in front of people and then sharing my journey, really was my yoga journey. All the trainings I did, it kind of kept like peeling away the layers of the onion and me getting to see more and more of my truth and accepting myself. And so it's been like an evolution for sure,
Great.
not just and a process. There's probably more truths that I have that I'm not even aware, maybe some more, there's always going to be
There's always
something.
work.
Until the day we die, there will always be growth and work. I would say, does that answer your question as far as like what kind of got me ready to share?
Yes.
And then I think your other piece was, what do I do to take care of myself?
Yeah, your tools that you use. I know I threw you off. I went.
It's all good.
I took a little yield.
It's making me listen.
Wow. See what happens on a podcast? No, I was just curious because I've been able to share a whole lot in my life that has happened, and then there's some things that will not come out of my face. I just cannot express it, except for one time to a therapist who gave me EMDR to say, you need help.
What
love
about
EMDR.
writing? Was the writing part of that therapy?
Writing was part of it. Yes, I would say in writing bipolar, I had created the story that I didn't like my high school or anyone who went to it. And then what I realized was like, oh no, I just had all this shame about what I went through. And since I'd missed 2 quarters of my senior year, I just figured, oh, she's the crazy girl. And at some point I put a post up and said something like, hey, if you went to high school with me and you have any memory or whatever, and first person to comment said, Julie, we were all going through something.
Yeah.
But I thought I was the only one. I was like, wait, you were? And
Don't
now,
we all?
Now that I have a daughter in high school, and I'm like, oh man, these kids are dealing with so much more than we dealt with way back when, or than I dealt with. But I think, I'm gonna sneeze.
We got coughing and sneezing.
Pardon me.
things.
Just start to yawn in a minute.
Excuse me. Must be springtime
Bless
allergies.
you, baby.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But I have a very robust self-care routine, and yes, writing is one. I do keep a journal. I meditate every morning. I have
This is big.
meditation and prayer. I probably, and when I did that first program with the yoga and the meditation, I've been meditating ever since, but I religiously meditate every morning for at least 20 minutes. So my whole routine, from when I get out of bed,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get too personal, but all the things in the bathroom, the washing the face, going to the bathroom, like I'm probably in my bedroom for an hour to hour 15
Wow.
between stretching and journaling, but 20 minutes, set the timer, and sometimes all I do is think. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just thought the whole time. And whether we're in some sort of Zen place or thinking all the time, the benefits of meditation are the same. It's just, just like you might take a shower in the morning and cleanse the outside of your body, and meditation kind of cleans the inside out.
God, my mornings are so different. I wake up, I'm like, oh, and I run and I drop coffee down my throat and I haul it out the door. I do not take any, I take personal hygiene in a minute, but I do not take,
Well, you look amazing.
well, thank you. But I don't take that head minute at all. I don't say, today's going to be a good day. Don't call yourself an idiot today. Because there's all that self-crap that you go through all the time. Sounds like an amazing way to start your day, though, to practice a little self-mindfulness before you get out there and tackle.
Yeah, and I didn't start off when I meditating twice a day. It started off, 5 minutes twice a day, and then I built up. But 20 minutes for me is kind of my zone. So yeah, I would say between meditation and prayer, I have a strong faith, and I do that, and I try to get out in nature and walk my dog as much as possible.
Yeah.
I swim a few days a week. I still dabble in a little bit of yoga. I don't do as much as I did, because I have just, I don't know, my brain, the myelin I've created in my brain is just.
You're just in yoga mode now.
It's just more of a way of being, and I just.
Right. It is a state of mind. When it really comes down to it, the practice of yoga, you're doing the physical stuff, but
It's moving meditation.
it is moving meditation. And I've said this before to you guys on the podcast. My very first yoga experience left me sobbing on my back during the Visana when you're laying?
Shavasana.
Shavasana. I was so not
Kind
close.
of like being in a sauna.
Yeah. No, hot yoga not for me. You might as well just roll me on out of there. But I just remember just all the feelings and everything. Just I don't know what happened. I just was like, I couldn't even get up. I was sobbing so hard, and I wasn't even sure what I was thinking or feeling. But it was just this incredible, overwhelming release of so much stuff inside your body, and you don't even know it's happening because you're so busy trying not to fall down or, do all the steps and keep your strength and not look foolish. But then when it was all over with, it was just incredible. It was something so remarkable. So I do yoga on my own, like I do my stretches every day, but everything for me is later in the day. I don't wake up with any kind of special, exciting habit, but I think I should start because just because listening to you, it sounds like your day could be a much more organized day and less frenetic because I'm frenetic all day and unorganized all day. So maybe I'm gonna take a piece of your advice and maybe just lay there for a few minutes and just try and think of something magical.
Well, there's also a lot of online resources that have like quick, 3-minute meditations that you can listen to that'll guide you, so you don't have to. Because I think sometimes the hard part of starting meditation is like what you just said, like what do I say to myself, or like it's not necessarily feeding yourself positive affirmations. It could be, but depending on what you need, there's all kinds of different.
That's pretty cool. I like that, and then also maybe an audio one that you can listen to. Because if I start to read, I fall asleep.
Yeah,
I just got up. I can't do that. But
exactly.
That's really interesting, and that's another great tool. And is there a third tool that you use?
There's great tools. But yeah, to Jen's point, there's like the Calm app, the meditation app, meditation timer, insight timer. There's tons of great apps and resources out there, so you don't have to feel like you got to do it alone.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's a good deal.
You're not alone.
Get it. Yeah.
Let's see. What else do I do? Oh, I started dabbling and going to the gym, and I do go to church. My faith is really like I can't do it alone. So.
Well, I'm glad you have that. A lot of people, I'm mixed up in faith department, but not lost, just confused a little bit sometimes. I believe in nature, holy cow, do I believe in nature? I believe that is almost a higher power to a lot of us people. Mm-hmm. So I love that, and I love that you have your higher power and that you have a faith. And then what do you do to practice keeping yourself together?
Well, a little bit of everything that you're mentioning is, engaging with the community. I think I need to meditate more. I think that I also store a lot of trauma in my body by just, keep going, because that's what we're taught to do these days is keep plugging along, right? And so I think, I'm trying to be more mindful and intentional about my mornings and, creating, a sanctuary to wake up in where, you create that meditative space for healing and for, like I was telling Liz, like my ideas come to me like when I'm in the shower, when I'm like,
when there's no pen.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And kind of like a more of like a movement meditative way. So I love yoga for that,
And you've been exercising a lot more lately. You've been getting up and going to the gym, which is big.
Yes. And now my
and
back is like.
You move a lot too.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Someone's like, slow down and meditate.
Yes, exactly. You don't need this. You need to meditate. Yes. Baby steps.
That's funny. But I do know that motion is important to keep your body moving. Even if you go for walks, you don't have to go to you can do any sort of exercise just to be outside, to walk, to breathe, and just to move your body.
Absolutely.
It's just a very important thing to do also. I mean, I think you have touched on so many things that a lot of people would love to be able to pull off. Not everybody looks at it as an easy task. And I mean, we've all been through some things that are really hard, and some people couldn't imagine getting past even the first experience that you went through. I can, because I've been through a lot of, stuff like that and a lot of other crazy things. And is it a gift that we've been through this because it gives us something that is a little bit more powerful than others? Do we have an all-knowing that we should be able to just throw at others? I mean, why? You always want to know, why are there some people that have gone through so much, and there's other people like, just going through it, and, they have maybe one little thing go on in their life, and they're like, kick that to the curb, I'm moving on. But then there's other people that just continuously have to fight and deal. and do stuff. So listening to you, being so empowered and being able to channel all of your energies into all the good stuff, you know, like yoga, like practicing, like writing, and helping others, and putting it onto your children, and sending your son off to college with things like this in this book that are just absolutely amazing. What is your favorite part of this book that you feel sends a message to a lot of people? Ooh, that just came to me, sorry.
Put me on the spot. You know, when I spoke in This Is My Brave, I read the last 2 paragraphs of the book. And I
Wow.
listened, because I sent it to you yesterday. I listened to the show again yesterday. And there were a few times where I'm like, I gotta heed my own advice. But I think the last two paragraphs of the book, just, here, should I?
Do it.
I don't have my glasses on, but let's.
Do you want me to read it? I don't need
maybe.
glasses. That's big writing. You can read that.
That's kind of why I did it. Let's just see.
Yeah, read a passage. This is going to be really profound.
Okay.
This book was great. Everybody needs to just read this. And it doesn't mean that you have to feel like, oh, well, I don't have bipolar. I'm not reading that, because it's about power, taking your life back.
It is.
It's
like,
not about being bipolar, which you're not.
I'm not. And if I was, like, who knows? Maybe.
This is just about achieving a goal of getting yourself better and working that mindset.
Well, and I think for me too, finding the pain, like people are like, oh, I'm so sorry you went through that. I'm like, don't be. I'm not. It's my superpower.
That's that stigma I
if
can't
I hadn't
stand.
gone through all those traumas, like I wouldn't be where I am. And
Right.
I was sharing.
That's why I asked, is it a gift after all?
It is a gift. I think it's a gift.
I mean, it's
But
a weird
I
gift.
didn't-
I can't return it.
Can't. You can't give it back. I was sharing with Liz right before the podcast that I lost my father 5.5 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
And you spoke to people grieving, and it's like, and we've had death in our family, but like a parent, that's a whole other thing.
Absolutely.
And I miss my dad, and I have tears, in and out of the day, and I'm supporting my mom, and she lives in the valley too, and though I can't take it back, he's gone, but now it's like another notch in the tool belt. So many people are dealing with death and dying and grief, and I'm
Right.
like, well, Julie, just jump right in. And so when I read this, or when I listened to This Is My Brave again, and I heard myself reading this, it's applicable to everything, I think.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
so
how about,
excited.
here I go. I do not claim to have all the answers or even a fraction. All I do know is that there was a time in my life when it seemed as though I would never get better. And what I want to share is there is always hope. The kind of hope I am talking about is not where one sits around waiting for something to happen. It is having a strong faith in knowing that there is always the possibility of change, especially if one is willing to do the work. Hold on to what you believe in, whether you are the one struggling or you know someone who is. Never give up. Keep your eyes on your true North Star, even if your vision is blurry at times. You don't even have to see the star. You don't even need to see the star. Just believe, trust, and have faith that it is there.
Oh, God, I have goosebumps on my legs. My hairy legs are sticking out like this now. Oh, my God, that was so profound. That was very profound. What do you feel about that?
Oh, I love it. Well, I'd like to say something to both of you, that I feel like your trauma wasn't necessarily a gift. I think you guys are the gift that was birthed out of your trauma, because you are taking something that's so personal and painful and turning that into help for others. And that's just absolutely incredible and amazing. So you guys, they're not your trauma, but you guys are the gifts that
Well,
are
that's huge.
to give. And yeah.
All right, we're going to have tissues on the set from now on. Danielle, tissues on the set when he does. What else do we need? Chocolate and coffee. Thank you for that. That's beautiful. And I mean, if anything, that's encouraging, because you spend your life wondering, am I a good person? What do I do to fix the angst that I have? I am actually welling up. But like, I had so much anger for so long, and then when it came time to feeling more like a nurturer instead of an angry person, it changed my life, and it changed the way I even felt about myself. So when you do go through things that are just unbearable, there's still a way to step out of it. Even if it's a big old pile, you can you can step out of it, kick it off, rinse it off, and work it out. But time sometimes is on your side and sometimes it's not. And if it's not on your side, then you just have to kind of get your gear up and make yourself empowered and work through it and make yourself worthy of yourself. Do those practices of love and self-care. Those are hard sometimes, especially when you've been through it. You feel like, well, do I deserve that? But yes, you do. We all do. And we're all special beings, and we have all been hurt. We've all been damaged. We've all been heartbroken, mystified, mortified, traumatized. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of people that are in the same boat. So when I bring somebody like you on, I think it's just such a beautiful thing, because there's a lot of people that are like, wow, maybe I'm going to take a writing class, or maybe I'm going to join a theater company, or maybe I'm going to read Bipolar, which is available at the Bookworm and on Amazon. But there's so many things you can do to step out of the discomfort that you feel within your own skin. There's nothing worse than if you can't be on your own and not feeling comfortable, then the rest is just a real hard road. So when we take care of ourselves, we do the right thing, then we can come out and bring light for others to see and to be able to cope easier. And in this valley, we just have so many people that are going through so many things. And shining a light on you today was so special. And you are such a brave lady. And I just think it's really important that you came on today and that you have a voice in this valley. And you have brought physical healing to so many of us for so many years. And not only that, but you've brought mental and emotional healing as well. And I think your next journey really could be public speaking on a platform where people can understand on how to work things out in their life. How do you feel about that? You agree?
No, I love that. And I just heard something recently. It was like, if you're surrounded by darkness, maybe you're the light. And so the fact that, you know, you're choosing.
Cut it out!
You know, to take that light and to share it with others is the greatest gift you can give anybody. And
Absolutely.
So, yes. So thank you.
Oh,
thank
I
you
love
both.
that.
Like, you know.
Oh my goodness. This is wonderful. Well, we usually end on a really cheery note, but we also end up on a hot seat note. We like to put our guests on the hot seat. Do you have your hot seat question for her today, Jen?
Well, we talked through a lot of the questions that I think I was going to ask, but just maybe, you know, who, like, while you were going through this, like, did you have, you know, like a person that you like really, you know, you said yoga and you mentioned a lot of the different things you did, but was there like a person that like helped feed your soul and keep you going through this? Like, was it religion? Was it a family member?
I would say as a high schooler and a young adult, my mother. Yeah. Both my parents. My dad very supportive, but my mom was a pit bull for me getting well. And
Yay for good parents.
She never took. No, you know, just my dad always said, just because a doctor has a white coat on doesn't make them God. And so some of them kind of ticked her off. And so she's like, we are moving, Julie. You can't do that. Oh, watch me. And so she really was a pit bull for my well-being. That's awesome. And still is like just a dear friend. And oh my gosh, I have so many amazing friends. That's important. I really, in that community piece we talked about, I've got, I think my circle's a little smaller now that I don't have the yoga studios.
And you're older, you let go of the drama, people.
Yeah,
we got to get them out.
That are in my life I love, but I do have a few besties that are great, and then my husband really. I mean, my husband Tom, we've been married. We'll be 25 years this summer, and he really is he's my rock for sure.
So good to have a person.
Yeah, my mom and dad.
Was it hard to share with your husband, like your past trauma and whatnot, or?
It never has been.
That's
was
impressive.
Nothing. I want to phrase this about. There was nothing I never held anything from him at all. At all. He was just.
And no judgment, no stigma, no coddling, nothing.
No.
He just took it.
He was a psychology major in college, so it's like, oh, did you know you were going to take that for your marriage? You know. And I tend to be type A and like. You know, so if I didn't meditate, like I still get nuts.
You'd be frenzy.
But I'd be more nutser.
Yeah.
And you know, I always say you can't have two dishwasher reloaders in the same family. And so if Tom's just he's more laid back. So he's my rock.
That's amazing. I'm so happy
just
you
great
have.
Friends. And then I've had a lot of great teachers and kind of healers along the way. But and then now, I'm kind of a newer faith person, and it's just really great for me to know there's just something bigger out there that
It's
guiding me through.
amazing that you find something that's important to you, whether it's faith, whether it's friendship, whether it's family, whether it's a significant other or anything like that. And I just have to say, I am so grateful for you for being here today on our new studio. I love how beautiful it is here. A big thank you to Danielle and Max, who helped us out today. This is TV8 Studio, and this is going to be our new home for the Chatbox Vale, where we bring to light wonderful locals just like Julie Kiddoo, who can make you feel a little bit better and give you some ideas on how there is hope. There's always hope, and that's what our purpose is here. That's our mission, is to always spread hope, joy, and love. And Jennifer Saito, the best host ever. I'm Liz Farron. This is Julie Kiddoo. Make sure you get Bipolar over at the Bookworm locally, better yet, or on Amazon, wherever you would like to get it, because it's something for everybody in this book. And you're just an amazing person, and thank you for being here. And thanks for tuning in to episode lucky number 13 on the Chatbox Vale. May something very magical happen to you this week.